I'm Jeff Fritz with SoundStage.com, and I'm joined today by Grant Samuelsen of Shunyata Research and Clear Image Scientific. Grant, how are you today?
Good, Jeff. Thanks for having me.
Well, I appreciate you being here, and I've known you for a long time with Shunyata Research. I've had
Yes.
those products in and out of my system for many years, and currently, thankfully, I have Shunyata products in my system, which has been absolutely terrific. And so I wanted to talk to you a little bit about Shunyata products, but before we get into that, I wanted to talk about your dual role and Shunyata Research and Clear Image. You guys do products for both the audiophile industry with Shunyata and with Clear Image for medical professionals. And boy, those couldn't be two different fields. And I wanted to hear a little bit about how the products differ and anything that you can tell us about the differentiation between the two.
Sure. Well, Clear Image Scientific was born in an electrophysiology lab. Obviously, there are many surgeons across the United States that also love great music. And a couple of those surgeons, one in particular in Minneapolis, brought some of our they're called the Defender. They're little plug-in devices that plug into outlets and they filter noise on the line going back to the panel. I think he installed 15 or 16 of those throughout his lab just to draw a baseline and find out what kind of noise reduction he might see and experience during one of his procedures. He saw an enormous difference in terms of the noise that he had been experiencing during his cases, and gave us a call, and that kind of was the genesis, or began the journey that we started about 5 years ago. Since that time, about for the last 4 years, I've been traveling across the United States visiting electrophysiology labs with some really serious products that would resemble more, I guess the analog would be the Denali 6000 shelf that we make for audio. Interestingly, we found that the parallels between audio and electrophysiology are actually quite striking. In both cases, especially in pro audio, when you get into complicated systems, for example, at Skywalker Sound or at Rick Rubin's studio or Astoria in the UK, the commonality is there are many electronics, often a control panel, powered speakers, everything feeding off a common bus or a common point of electrical contact. And oftentimes the electronics are in a crowded space or on a crowded rack. And when I go into these places, one of the first things I do is I bring a tri-field meter with me and test the environment to see how much radiated noise exists around the system. We check the electrical line to see how much noise is coming off of the the grid. And what they share in common is they both create a lot of in-system noise. And the genesis of our company really focuses on the noise that is proximal, meaning the noise generated by and shared among the electronics themselves. Whereas historically, power products were designed either to be transformer, choke, coil, regenerator, that are all designed based on the idea that noise that interferes with resolution or system performance comes from the outside, comes from your neighbor or the power station nearby, and that you've got to protect your system from this noise. Unfortunately, by that same principle, it acts as these devices act as two-way brick walls, meaning they block noise from getting into the system, but they also don't allow for an exit path for the noise that's generated by the system. So what makes our products different is that they function as a two-way sink for high frequency noise, not only coming in from the grid, but more importantly from our research, from Kalen's research, the noise that's coming from the electronics themselves, because of the idea of proximity, all these different power supplies operating independently in close proximity, and then pushing noise back onto the AC line. If you can address that noise, you can really affect tremendous reductions in noise. So in the medical industry, they're very big on data and they're very big on measurement. So they're always looking for data points, and they've measured the differences that our products make, which is different than in the audio industry. Typically, in the audio industry, quite often things are very subjective. People apply a product to a system and they sit and they listen and comment about differences they hear. In medical, of course, it's very science and measurement based. So you can see, based on the heart signals, just how much noise is left and just how much noise is removed. And based on that standard, that really gave us the impetus to create a separate series of products, which are very close in terms of design to the audio products. The primary difference is in medical, dynamic current is not critical in medical, because you're not dealing with a system that reproduces a dynamic signal. Whereas in sound systems, facilitating the dynamics of current into electronics, especially, of course, amplifiers, preamplifiers, anything that is operating in time with the music signal, requires you to spend a lot of money to make sure that you're not getting in the way of peak current as it's coming into the system. So in medical, we were afforded more of an opportunity to apply noise reduction in those systems without any concern about dynamic current. So although the components in medical are all rated at 20 amps, in terms of dynamic current, we don't have to worry about things like building our own solid copper outlets and using solid copper building our own solid copper connectors to facilitate the transfer of peak current. So we were able to go much further in terms of the noise reduction in medical. And shielded power cords. We build filtered power cords for medical and high-end audio. So the parallels really are striking. The one difference is that in electrophysiology, the systems are even more proximal, and there's even more electronics, and there's X-ray and generators and pumps and things that create massive amounts of noise, more so than even the most crowded high-end system. So noise reduction is really at a premium in those systems. And the transformers and chokes and coils that they were using had proven ineffective at dealing with that noise. So our products have been recognized as something of a watershed in that industry. And we recently signed a contract with one of the major medical companies to distribute our products with their systems.
Well, it's fascinating that the products have found the application in the medical field, and I guess it shouldn't come as a surprise with electronics that are that sensitive and obviously that relied on by medical professionals. I guess it's not surprising. Noise is everywhere, and that, right, as you said, has been your business for quite a while. Well, going back to the audiophile world, you mentioned at the beginning of your answer some of the installations that you guys have done with Shunyata Research products. I'm super interested to hear about, maybe one or two of the most interesting ones. What who it was for, what type of equipment, and can you tell us a story about that?
Well, again, any success that we've had it goes back to 2 points. One is, of course, Kalin, who's a former military scientist, and developed much of the military's low-level signal acquisition systems. So he has a singular talent related to signal and power transmission. And the other is just trying to connect dots, is having one or another studio discover us in the recording industry. I guess I would say that we were discovered by Astoria Studio, David Gilmour's studio. They had read an article in Hi-Fi Plus about our products in 2002, and gave us a call. We supplied a short list of products for them to evaluate. They got quite excited about them, and I was invited to go visit. The Astoria Studio is a houseboat on the River Thames in the UK. Beautifully set up studio, really iconic. Massive amounts of electronics that have all been redesigned. Power, intricate power supplies. Tim DePeravicini, who I think is well known in high-end audio, redesigned a lot of their Studer master deck power supplies. So they felt pretty secure that they didn't really require noise reduction. And it was only when we went in there and installed a system of our products that they had kind of a revelation about just how far their system could go with the right noise isolation applied. So they became huge protagonists for us, and I guess that's the other part of our success, is that those that have discovered how well our products work in their systems have not been shy about sharing that success, the knowledge of that success with others. So Astoria was responsible for reaching out to Skywalker Sound, and Skywalker Sound, they were also responsible for reaching out to James Guthrie, who ultimately remastered Dark Side using our products. And James Guthrie reached out to Sony Music Studios in Japan, and when they visited, he gave them some of our power cords, some of our most expensive at the time. I think they were King Cobra models. And a few months later, we had an order from Sony Music in Japan. I think it was for 40 of our most expensive model power cords. I believe Rick Rubin also discovered us through reading about our success at a couple of the other studios. So it's kind of a big game of connect the dots. Where we got these opportunities. Astoria was probably, if you were to ask me for the seminal music listening experience of my lifetime, it was sitting behind the Neve 88 panel on that riverboat in David Gilmour's studio, listening to the B-side of Dark Side of the Moon. And, they had a surround system of ATC speakers. Obviously, the system was meticulously put together. And I felt like I was levitating, in the chair during Great Gig in the Sky. They had the system. I mean, the system was pushed to the limit, yet the sound didn't hurt your ears. It was just the sound pressure in there was tremendous. So that was one of those hair on the back of your neck experiences as a kid that grew up listening, right, to Pink Floyd's music. And so it's definitely been a kid in the candy store experience for me.
Well, that's quite the domino effect there with professional references, that it just seems like they just were cumulative for the company and have brought you guys into some great places, and you personally into some terrific listening experiences. Well, I appreciate the description of the listening experience at Astoria. Do you have any others that have come close or maybe approached in some ways, or that just stick out in your mind as favorite recent listening experiences?
Well, every time I've gotten to visit Rick Rubin's, either his house or his studio, was was a great experience because he really takes the listening experience seriously. He sits down and he listens carefully. I can't just send product places. You have to travel with the product, because often if you just send the product, it sits somewhere in somebody's living room, and they may or may not get around to listening to it because often their schedules are so full. But he would always take the time to schedule a visit for me to the house or the studio, and take the time to sit and listen and make comments, and and that was great fun to be able to do that with such an iconic music producer. I learned a lot about the work that he does. And many of these, I think Rick in particular is kind of a shirt off his back person, despite his status. In fact, many of these people have been very kind and generous people. So I've really been impressed. The music listening experience has been great. Some of the surgeons that we work with are big audiophiles. They've got beautiful music systems. Some of them are beyond anything I've ever seen. Their investments in, because they the jobs are such high stress jobs for all of them, that music is an outlet for them to kind of escape. You wouldn't think, in Rick Rubin's case or James Guthrie's case, that they would want to listen to music in their free time, but they do. And I was really taken aback with how seriously many of them take the product that they're working on, and that they actually care about getting the best sound possible, as most of us do, that have committed our work life in this business.
Well, Grant, I really appreciate your time today, and I wanted to mention that Shunyata also has new USB cables and network cables, I understand, and I think those are making some impact out there. Did you want to tell us a little bit about those, and are they available currently?
Yeah, Kalen developed a couple of technologies that have really made, we kind of grew into the business with power being our most recognized asset. That that Kalen's design assets were incredible in terms of designing electrical systems. But of recent days, the design behind the digital cables, if I had to say which of all the products that we've produced over the years have received the most consistent and over-the-top feedback, I'd have to say it's the most recent set of digital cables that we've produced: AES EBU, USB, Ethernet, clock cables, SPDIF cables. Everybody that's received them worldwide, all of our distributors, dealers, have made exhaustive comparisons to other products on the market, and the feedback has been as consistent as anything I've run across in my 22 years working with Kalen. So those are really special products. We make a complete range that go from the more affordable, to the very expensive Omega products, but you certainly don't have to spend top of the line money to hear what's unique about these products. And the technology, I think, that is most owed to the success is this unique extrusion process that he's come up with, that's run at the wires extruded at 1/4 the normal speed, which eliminates a lot of the incongruities in these conductor sets that often create noise and distortion when passing high-speed signals. And then he's using a common mode noise filtration and these polarizers, which people can read about if they go to our website, and they can read the patent application by searching his name. those also have made a profound difference. But the bottom line is that through the combination of technologies, if I were to recommend one product to somebody that's not familiar with us, because of their ease in application, also, I'd recommend people try a set of those digital cables at any of the price points.
Well, Grant, thank you so much for the information on the new products and what Shunyata Research has been up to. And like I said at the outset, I have Shunyata products in my system, and I've been just absolutely thrilled with the performance. And that's one of the reasons that I was so anxious to have a chat with you today, so that all the SoundStage viewers and readers could be turned on to the Shunyata products. So thank you again for taking the time to chat with me, and hopefully we'll meet up again soon.
Yeah, thanks for giving us the opportunity, and for sitting and listening to the product, Jeff. We really appreciate it.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Talk to you soon, Grant.
All right, we'll see you soon.